What about finding this first project? I myself very interested in, in that very early stage where, again, organizations, presumably doing fine, right? Knowing some of the pain points, but not necessarily, grabbing to actually implement the enterprise-wide automation initiative. So where do you find this first process, first business unit, and first team that's gonna be your pioneer in that journey?
Yeah. So I guess it's a bit of a complex one, but I think having almost a hybrid approach in a way where you have someone within the business internally who's looking to lead this initiative, but also perhaps having some external help from an expert or an organization that have done this before, someone who can come and advise and understand what the goals are of your business and work with you to understand what should we look at first, what areas should we look at. Some businesses do get sidetracked, I think, sometimes by looking at the thing with the largest ROI, and they see the big ROI off of this. For instance, with RPA, they see something that they can automate and it could save them $1 million a year, and they look at that and they'd say, oh, that's great, we can automate that and it would save us so much money. But I think more often than not, what organizations typically do is they look at the low-hanging fruit. What is something that we can look at quite quickly and implement and show a quick sort of ROI, and do that within a short time frame to prove that it works and to prove that we can do it. And then once you've done that, you then build on that success, and then you work your way up to the big shiny ROI that you have in mind from the outset anyway, and then you work your way towards that once you've been successful. Because I think once you've proven that it works, you get more buy-in from the business, more people build up confidence in that business unit. You then probably have more budget to hire more experts in, or go out to the market for external help, whether it's through a consultancy or an independent person themselves, and then really build it from there. So that's what we see that tends to work a lot and works quite well.
Beautiful. How about technology stack, though? You mentioned some of the critical points earlier, but would you spell out, please, how to pick the right technology? Because it could be playpen, okay? It's not a mandatory tool set, from my understanding. So how do you pick right technology, and how do you select a vendor? I know it's a big question.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I think a lot of businesses, when they first start out on that journey, I think just going back to that, they need to really understand what the end objective is. So rather than going in and saying, right, we want to adopt RPA, and then they go out to market and they look at the RPA vendors and they speak to a few, and then they go through selection, and then they bring the RPA vendor in, and then they're like, right, what do we do with this vendor? Oh, there's a few things that we can do. I think first of all, understanding what the objective is. If it is automation, then is RPA right? Maybe you could look at BPM or perhaps some other automation tools that might be a bit more suitable. But once you've understood exactly what the goals are, you then try and look at what technologies fit into that journey. And it might not just be one, it might just not be one RPA tool. It could, be a combination of a few things. It could be RPA. You could be looking at, maybe you're looking at some conversational AI stuff, or maybe some more advanced machine learning decisioning through that process as well. What a lot of the businesses tend to do is try and keep it simple at the start, and then once you've proven that it works, then you can look at the other areas where perhaps other technologies can have a bigger impact. So to start off with, it's really starting off small, and when you go through that vendor selection process, you have to be quite careful. As we all know, the vendors are very good at selling their product, but when you get down to the bare bones of it, all the products are very, very similar. So it's really what works best for your business. You need to understand, your own architecture and what your business is running on currently. How does that work, and how does that integrate to make sure that you're kind of set up for success? Because if you're adopting a new technology that doesn't necessarily play nicely with what you've got already, you could be setting yourself up to fail. So doing that from the outset is probably the best thing, and certainly from people that we speak to is something that they look to do first of all.